Hello and welcome to another edition of the MMK Show. Today we've got a guest with us who's going to talk about how you can sell $200,000 of pre-orders before buying products from your supplier. Welcome back, Vance. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing amazing for 1 a.m. here.
Yeah. Martin,
Great to
Kevin,
see
how
you
are you
again,
guys
Vance.
doing?
You looking well?
I'm feeling good, looking good, feeling good.
Yeah, really good. Thanks.
So where are you joining us from, Vance?
Portugal. I just got here 2 weeks ago. Before this, I was in Mexico for a little while, and I just got over here, just continuing my nomadic journey.
Cool, very
What a
good.
life.
Living the life, living the Amazon dream, huh?
Something like that, yeah.
Awesome. So, Vance, we're really excited to have you back on the show. And the last time you were here, there was so much interest in this strategy that you have to pre-order products and basically use Kickstarter to launch products on Amazon and other platforms. So you've got, of course, it's the same principles, but you've updated, you've got slight, updates. So very excited to hear about that. But before we start your presentation, we just want to remind everyone that Seven Figure Seller Summit is going on. This is an award-winning virtual summit that is hosted by Gary Huang, and you can buy free tickets. Click on this link. The link will be in the description and also posted in the chat just now, but bit.ly ISN 7FSS7. This is an amazing summit with live masterminds, master classes, and coaching as well. So it's a very unique summit that Gary Huang puts together. This is the seventh edition. Marg and I also did a presentation at the summit yesterday about sourcing from India. So check it out. Really informative, and also you can get live feedback on any issues that you're facing in your Amazon business. All right, so let's see who's joining us here. We've got Jane Proctor saying good morning. Hi, Jane. How are you doing?
Morning, guys. Morning,
And
Trish.
we've got Trish. Okay. All right, Vance. So let's get started. Should I share your slides? Are you ready?
Let's do it. Let's
All
jump
right,
into
let's
it.
do it. So,
Alrighty.
everyone watching, if you have any questions, type your questions in the comments, and Vance will address questions as well. All right, Vance, over to you.
Perfect. So those of you who know me, I'm really passionate about sharing different types of alternative launch strategies. So this is what's led us to this conversation about pre-orders and using pre-orders as a way to generate sales before actually placing an order for inventory. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But specifically this time, I want to focus a little bit on cash flow and understanding why cash flow is really important for us in understanding why pre-orders is going to make a massive difference, and some other ways that you can make use of strategies to also optimize your cash flow. And cash flow is one of those topics that doesn't seem super important, especially if you haven't run into it yet as a newer seller. But for all those sellers that are trying to grow or scale, this is definitely a topic that's that you've definitely considered and had to find a way to deal with. So we're going to talk about cash flow today and how that's related to using pre-orders as a model that will allow you to address some of these concerns, but also get some other benefits along the way as you execute a strategy that's a little bit different than usual. And hopefully this is going to give you a competitive advantage against everyone else who's doing a lot of the same strategies. So that's what we're looking at today. For those that don't know me, my name is Vance Lee, and I've been selling in FBA since 2015 now, so quite a few years. First year was really good. Second year, lost a lot of money making lots of mistakes, and that's eventually what led me to Kickstarter and the pre-order launch model. And since then, I've raised over 7 million in successful launches alone. So these are not e-commerce sales numbers. These are launches through pre-orders and crowdfunding. And 2 of my own products have broken the top 1%, and one of them is in the 0.01% of most funded products of all time in their niches. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, the biggest concern that a lot of people are facing nowadays is launches are increasingly more challenging. So as sellers, we know that there's a lot of competition. There's a lot of big players that are out there with massive budgets, and what that's leading to is that's leading to challenges with our profitability because of how we have to compete to be able to start ranking or even start doing well against some of those big players. So lots of uncertainty about how that looks like for being successful in the long term with Amazon or e-commerce in general. But really what we're looking at doing is, can we consider that there might be different strategies that will allow us to launch in a different way that will allow us to have a competitive advantage as we kind of continue in our quest for being able to be successful on e-commerce and Amazon. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We have three main goals today. The first one is to understand why cash flow is potentially the hidden killer in your business growth at this stage. So regardless of whether or not you're early stages or you're scaling up many products, this is going to be something that's affecting you whether you know it or not. And the second goal is in relationship to understanding cash flow, understanding why pre-orders using Kickstarter is really the only way we can launch your product and build your brand without having upfront inventory risk. So this is going to be really interesting to dive into the strategy that I'm really excited about sharing with you guys. And finally, we're going to give you a walkthrough of our Launch Accelerator Blueprint, which is the strategy that we use to launch successful campaigns and launch products, and at the same time building a community or list of ready-to-buy customers that's going to support your product and your brand as you grow. So common FAQs that I'll just get right out of the way first. Kickstarter, is this a platform that replaces Amazon or Shopify or any of the other third-party platforms that you really like Walmart? The answer is no. Kickstarter is just a launch platform that allows you to be able to launch and then scale to your platform of choice. And that answers the second question as well. So you can, after Kickstarter, move to any platform of your choice. In fact, all the work that you put into the Kickstarter isn't just for Kickstarter. All that stuff that you prepare immediately can allow you to launch on Amazon and Shopify afterwards. And the final question that I get really often is, do you need a 100% revolutionary product or 100% unique product to launch on Kickstarter? Or does it only work for blank category like the tech category? And the answer is no, it works for all categories. And we're going to have some examples for you about this. So this works for beginner sellers. If you're new and you want to hedge risk or validate your product beforehand, works really great for you. If you're an advanced seller with dozens of products under your belt, lots of people are using this as a strategy to scale faster, get more cash flow so that they can move more quickly and start building the foundations for their brand and their customers. So works for everybody, regardless of the stage of your e-commerce and seller journey. So how we're going to do that today is we're going to go through each of those parts that we mentioned. So we have three goals. We're going to break those down into three parts, and we're going to address them each individually. And please stay all the way to the end, because at the end, we're going to answer all your questions, and we're going to have a full breakdown of the strategy and what that looks like, and a few bonuses for you to explore if you're interested in exploring this type of model. And that's it. Let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about cash flow first. Cash flow is one of those topics that sometimes is a little bit misunderstood. And this is essentially this is a topic that might be hindering your growth without you even knowing it. So let's talk about why that is. So a lot of people when they talk about selling, they talk about the top line sales numbers. So they talk about the amount of money that you generate, but not a lot of people are talking about what that looks like in the back end when it comes to cash flow. But cash flow is super important because this is essentially the lifeblood of what keeps your business operating. So why does this matter? Well, first of all, you can be profitable on a day-to-day basis, on a sale-to-sale basis, but your business could be very, very much at risk if your cash flow is not healthy. And it's really common for a lot of sellers, especially Amazon sellers, to be profitable on paper when you look at the numbers, but have poor cash flow, and that leaves them either in debt or not able to continue their business. And you hear people talking about inventory shortages and not being able to keep up with inventory, and that's blowing out their business. This is what we're talking about with cash flow. And so what we want to focus on here is understanding that at the end of the day, cash flow is going to be the limiting factor in our growth. So what does that mean, and what can we do about it? So first of all, what is cash flow? Cash flow in a physical products business like we're in here is the net flow of cash over time that comes from purchasing inventory and what else you use cash for, which is our marketing campaigns, PPC, all that stuff that goes in that we put cash into, and the amount of time it takes to get the profits back so that you have cash again to reinvest into the business. So that's the high level of what cash flow is. We're not going to go into too many nuanced details, but the idea here is the amount of cash you have available to use for operating your business. And that's, of course, very important, as you can understand. If we need to buy inventory, if we need to invest in ads, or whatever it is that we need to do, we need that money on hand for us to be able to do this. And so one of the biggest mistakes that we see is that people confuse profit with cash flow. They assume that if you're making profit per unit sold, then your cash flow must be healthy. Well, the cash flow profit, only takes into account revenues and expenses. So it doesn't consider the time that it takes for you to get your money back to recoup the inventory cost. So your inventory can be sitting there for a long period of time, which means your cash is stuck there and that you don't have that cash that's usable for anything. It's just sitting there in the inventory. So as you can start to see, this is going to be a challenge for us if we're either inventory stuck or it's moving a little bit slower than expected, or we need to order lots of inventory at the same time to make sure we don't run out. That's how our cash gets stuck. So
We
let's
got
talk
one
about
question from Jay, real quick. He's saying, assume AP includes wages.
Yeah. So if you assume that anything that's included that operates your business, you'll include that in. So if you're paying yourself a monthly wage, you'll include that in your considerations for cash flow.
Okay, that's it.
So poor cash flow, what does this look like? Well, not enough cash to pay for inventory or marketing, being funded by either borrowing loans or having debt, and longer lead times to recover investments from your orders, which means that it's really difficult to launch new products or scale quickly and just really grow your business or grow that product specifically. And healthy cash flow is the opposite. Enough cash to be able to place orders, cover everything that you need to operate the business. What you're doing here is, if you have positive cash flow, then you're being funded by your profits rather than having to borrow money. And number three is you have a faster lead time to recover your investments from each individual order. So this is going to be really healthy for you to be able to continue to grow and not run out of inventory. And of course, the last one, the final result is that we are able to launch products quicker and scale products and your business and your brand faster. So this is now why cash flow is so important and why we need to discuss that. So 4 things that hinder cash flows for product launches. I'm going to just breeze through these really quickly. What is causing you to have poor cash flow? And all of these are not necessarily bad activities. These are just things that you're keeping in mind, that when you do these things, it makes your cash flow, you're challenged with cash flow because you're doing this. So every time you reinvest in inventory, you have to purchase more inventory to keep the business going. This is going to affect your cash flow. At the time where you're investing in getting your product to rank or to be competitive against some of these bigger players, you'll continue to invest in ads. So you're putting money into ads. This is going to take away at your cash flow. And of course, if you're growing and you're successful, this in a way also is a great problem to have. But the more that you're growing, the more inventory that you need to purchase in the next order, and this is going to take away your cash flow as well. And of course, with the recent challenges with logistics and supply chain, this is also, if your inventory is stuck at sea for a much longer period of time or stuck at the dock, this is going to have a lot of challenges in your cash flow as well. So all of these things contribute to having negative or poor cash flow. So a really quick example of what this looks like to drill home the last point is, if you're selling a $30 product and you're selling it at, let's say, $5 profit per unit at 100 per day, this gives you approximately $1 million of sales for the year. Sounds amazing, doesn't it? And at those numbers, it's 180K profit for the year. But that's not the entire picture, because you can have 180K profit based on your books, but you could potentially even be worse off at the end of the year than you were at the beginning of the year. You could even be in debt. So why would that be? So if you're taking money and you're reinvesting into inventory, if you're buying inventory that doesn't sell and it's sitting there for a long period of time, so you don't actually get the money back, you can be looking at a cash flow issue. And some of the other things we mentioned, if you're growing over time, if your gross profit is not high enough and your margins are really tiny, and also considering the supply chain challenges, these are all things that can lead to lower cash flow and can actually put you into a situation with debt. So what can we do to fix poor cash flow? Well, of course, one of the things, if we make more money per sale, then we're getting more cash back every time we sell units. So being anything that allows you to increase your profit margins will allow you to increase your cash flow. The second thing is anything that will help you improve your supply chain will help you. So shorter lead times, faster shipping times, if you can negotiate specific types of agreements with your supplier for payment terms. Having 60-day payment terms after you receive the inventory, stuff like that will really, really help your cash flow because you don't have to put the cash out first to be able to get the inventory. So all those are really awesome. We're not going to talk about those today because I'm not going to be as in-depth as maybe some other guests that you guys could have on the show to talk about those topics. But what we do want to talk about today is we want to talk about other creative strategies that allow us to get things like pre-orders, and which means that we get to sell inventory beforehand, before having to spend money on the before investing in that inventory and that production order, so that you can get the cash in advance and be ahead on your cash flow cycles. And this is going to make a massive difference for investing in your in the way you scale your brand and the marketing of your brand to be able to scale that product. So we're going to talk about pre-orders with Kickstarter and how we're going to make use of this to be able to make our situation with cash flow much more favorable and do a few other things that is going to help our business. So what is Kickstarter and how is this going to change the way we look at launches? So Kickstarter is a pre-order platform, which means that customers are coming to buy the product in advance and allow you to, well, essentially they want to be the first to get it once the manufacturing production order is made. So you're going to be the first to ship it to them once the order completes. This is generally used as a part for launching. So this is not the be all end all, as I mentioned earlier. We use this as a strategy to help us launch our product, but then we're going to use this to move to other platforms once we've established the foundations for what that looks like for the successful launch. So this is a way to raise initial cash for the initial production order, but also at the same time build a list and build an audience. And we'll talk about why that's going to make a massive difference to your business. And here's an example of a company that we worked with called Ferris Wheel Press, and these guys, this is pretty much a PL product, so a private label product of ink. They had really nice packaging. They did a good job with that, but they launched this on Kickstarter and raised $160,000 with launching this fountain pen ink that they put into some really nice packaging. There's two main platforms. From now on, I'm just going to refer to pre-orders and crowdfunding as Kickstarter as a whole, just for simplicity. But know that there's Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and these are the two main platforms where people are launching crowdfunding platforms. And I'll talk about which one to use and what's the benefit. And one thing to really note here really quickly is that Kickstarter and crowdfunding customers are very different than other e-commerce customers, because these people generally are wealthier shoppers that have higher disposable income, because these people are willing to invest in a product that doesn't exist yet. So sometimes 50, sometimes hundreds, sometimes a couple $100s into a product that they might potentially not receive, which is how Kickstarter was founded originally, as a platform for people to invest in cool concepts. So now the platform has changed a lot, where people are just using this as pre-orders to purchase. But we know that because of the foundation of how this platform was founded, people are willing to, there's wealthier customers here who are willing to invest in cool ideas that they like. So how does this model work, and why is this favorable for us sellers? Well, the traditional model, the Amazon model, this is obvious to us. We have to buy the inventory first. We pay for the inventory before getting any orders. We put the inventory into our warehouse so that we can begin selling, and we invest in our launch strategy, whatever that looks like, to begin ranking and building up momentum. And then we hope that at the end of that, we can make some sales and begin ranking. The Kickstarter model is really powerful because it starts to flip this model upside down, and you're going to see why this is going to make a massive difference in the way that we work with launches. So with Kickstarter, you launch a limited time campaign up to 60 days. During this campaign, customers can place pre-orders, so they're essentially buying your product in advance. And after the campaign closes, you're going to get paid by Kickstarter in 15 days. So that means you get the cash first, and after you get the cash, then you can decide to place your order with your manufacturer and then fulfill to your backers. So this is an example of a towel that launched on Kickstarter. They raised about over $300,000, and they had about over 3,000 backers purchase this product in advance before they had to place any order for inventory at all. So this is you can start seeing some examples of why this is really interesting as a model. So if you see it side by side.
That's very interesting. So it's such a simple product. It's just a towel, right? I mean, it's such a simple product. So how did they? I'm sure you're going to talk about this later, but I'm just curious. Like, how did they differentiate this towel? It's such a regular,
Yeah.
normal product. Like, what can you do to a towel, right?
These guys did some cool stuff with the material, so it's like an interesting material. But I'll talk a little bit about. I'll have a whole section where we talk about how we can make products stand out and use that as a key differentiator to be able to launch products. So, great question. We'll definitely cover that.
Okay.
Cool. So what do we need to launch? So what do we need to launch a Kickstarter campaign or a pre-order campaign? Well, we need a prototype. So in this situation, we need a towel so that we show that the product exists and it's a real thing. And that's what you need to get approved by Kickstarter. The second thing you need is a campaign page. So this is the page that's displayed to people that show the story of what you're selling. So this is equivalent to your Amazon product listing page or your Shopify product page. And for that, you'll need things like photo, copy, and video. So all those assets that you need for a normal launch, only you're presenting it for the Kickstarter campaign page. And eventually, of course, if you invest in this, you can use the exact same assets for when you scale to Amazon or Shopify. You're just doing this in a different order. What do you not need? So this is really where the main benefit comes in. You don't need inventory in stock. So you can sell on Kickstarter and start this pre-launch campaign without actually having any inventory at all. So these guys launched without any inventory, and they put up this campaign page, and people liked the idea. They bought it, and then they got the cash, and then that's when they were able to use this to order the inventory. So this is how the process looks like with launching with a pre-order model. So we're going to talk about why this is a better launch strategy, and there's lots of reasons. There's maybe several dozen reasons, but we're going to go into the top 5 reasons why this is going to be favorable for us sellers. And we're going to touch on cash flow here. This is what led us into this theme. And I want you to take a look at these as you're watching to see which one of these might be most relevant and most important for you in your business. And as you see it, I'm going to ask you later on which one you think is the most relevant to you, and we can maybe address some questions about that or dive deeper into it. But first, the first 2 are financial. So the first one is that it flips the model upside down. So we already touched on this already because of the order in which we have to invest the money. In the traditional launch, we have to invest a significant amount upfront for things like inventory. If we want to do the launch strategy that we're going to invest in with PPC and all that stuff. And there's a chance, of course, we want this to be successful, but if it's not successful, then what we're doing is we're sinking a lot of cash in before we have the chance to be profitable and make any money at all. With the approach that we take to launching on Kickstarter, all you need is a prototype, and you eliminate risk by getting the pre-orders and make sure that you have the cash up front before you spend a single dollar in inventory. So this is really flipping the model upside down. So financially, you're mitigating risk, and you're able to take this as a cool opportunity to get some, cash. So we'll talk about the second one, which is related. So with the traditional Amazon launch model, launches are pretty costly and they're never profitable. So we never look at launches as a opportunity to make money. We really look at these as sunk cost, and we hope that eventually someday that once the product ranks and if we do well with it, then it starts to pay back the initial investment that we put into it. And so if your product does well, it's possible it can take many months to eventually make that money back. And you understand at this stage now that this is a very cash flow poor model because we're putting in the cash first. We're going to be under, we're going to be red, and then we're hoping at some point we're going to start moving green. But at some point we have to purchase inventory again. So that's going to bring us red. So we're going to always be kind of in this weird phase where we're catching up on cash flow, even if we're profitable. With our approach with launching on Kickstarter, the successful campaigns that we launch are profitable immediately. So we invest in all the stuff that it takes to launch the campaign initially, like we talked about. So the campaign page, which is the same as your Amazon product listing page. And if we're successful, then we're able to see profits immediately. And this allows us to have cash in advance. And what that allows us to do is potentially we can choose to purchase more inventory in advance. Maybe we want to invest in more marketing or create cool assets, whatever it is we want to do. It gives us the cash up front so we can make that decision. So these two, number 1 and number 2, are related to finances. And these are really, really cool benefits as to how this is going to change the way that we look at launches when we use the pre-order launch model. Number 3, this is different because we don't really think about this as Amazon sellers usually, but this is allowing us to start building a list of people that are going to be our fans for our brand. And this allows us to build sustainability when it comes to the long-term life of our brand. So it's really difficult to grow a sustainable brand on Amazon alone because we know that customers of our customers on Amazon are not really our customers, they're Amazon's customers. And that's why we don't get to access them. And we have to do all these weird roundabout ways to try to get their emails and insert cards and these types of things. It's just not designed for us to be able to connect with the customer. And what this means is not having this list of customers really makes it difficult for us to grow a real brand, because launching product 2 is not that much easier than launching product 1. We just have to start over almost every single time. So this limits really the way we can scale these, we'll scale our overall business. But in the way that we take advantage of launching on Kickstarter with our approach, when you acquire customers on Kickstarter, these become your fans right away. You can communicate with them. These are your customers, and these are going to be your customers that can support your product launch, your future product launches, when you launch accessories, when you launch on Amazon, these people can support you. Whatever it is that you want to do, you're going to start building a community of these fans, and this is going to make a massive difference. So our first campaign was the one at the top here, the Arctic Cold Brew System. We raised almost $1 million after upsells between Kickstarter and Indiegogo. And what happened, what I want to draw the attention to is when we launched our second coffee product in this niche, the Vance Lee coffee cups, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes, we reached out to these customers and said, hey, we're launching this product. In fact, I won't go into this too much now, but we actually got feedback about the product that we launched, so that they gave us feedback about what they liked, packaging, all this type of stuff that gave us really a lot of confidence in launching the second product. But what I want to draw your attention to is the fact that a lot of people came back from our initial audience. So people that bought our first product came back to buy our second product. And the number isn't super high. 5% isn't a crazy, crazy number, but 5% of our initial audience from that first campaign came back and bought our second product, and that led to $40,000 in sales. So that's well, 39,000. So it was really, really close to 40,000, which means that right when we launched right away, we became profitable on those sales because we didn't have to spend any extra money. These people were on our list already. So this is the benefit of being able to have people that are a fan of your brand and supporting you and allowing you to, well, when you can communicate them, it allows you to really develop that relationship. So when you launch product 4, 5, 6, 7, it's going to be much easier than having to start over every single time. And of course, you can move these products and launch them on whatever platform you choose, but then you still have the support of these people that are your customers. So this is a massive, massive advantage. And the other thing, I'll touch on this really briefly. Successful launches on Amazon generally don't produce any recognition off Amazon. It's just you have reviews on Amazon and that's it. But if we're successful on crowdfunding and with Kickstarter, people start to pick this up and write articles. They might feature you on different blogs. And so all of these articles that you see here for our Arctic launch, none of this was paid for by us. And so when people start Googling us, when people start Googling our product names or our brand name, they're going to be able to find stuff about us. And this is going to make our brand look credible and allows us to scale to different platforms and actually start diversifying. And so that we're not relying only on one platform. And finally, this is related to this, but when you have a successful campaign, if you're just, for example, launching on Amazon, your success is limited to Amazon. But if you're successful launching on Kickstarter and starting to scale an audience and scale a brand that actually people are interested in, you begin to develop other opportunities to scale your product in other ways. So this allows us to, with our Vance Lee coffee cups, what we're able to do is we had a lot of people actually reach out to us when they saw our campaign and wanted to carry and distribute our product in their countries. So right now we have 17 distributors. So we're in 17 different countries where wholesalers will buy our product and they'll sell to the coffee shops and the retailers, so the gift shops and those things in their own country. And that's a really cool way to kind of diversify and get another sales channel. And this is something that as an e-commerce seller, I never thought that I would be able to do, but this is something that it was an opportunity that was created from the fact that we were able to get really positive publicity from this campaign. And this allows you to do retail and a whole bunch of other third-party websites, which some of them we're selling on at the moment. So I want to hear from you which one of these were the most appealing for you, or which one of these were the most interesting to you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can just drop it in the chat. We'll take a look at these numbers later and see if we can deep dive into any of them if you have any questions. But there's a lot of other reasons, so I don't want to go into the other benefits of the launch strategy, but for example, if you're coming up with new product ideas or something that's unique that you've never seen before, like variations of existing things. Kickstarter is also a great way to validate your product. And you don't have to go through a full launch to validate it. With our process, we validate beforehand. So our goal here is to really understand if people want this before having to purchase $20,000 or $50,000 of inventory in advance. So there's a massive benefit in using this model to do this. I won't dive into this too much, but I just want to give you an example of who this works for, because often people will say, well, that sounds great, but will this work for my product? Will this work on what I'm focused on? This company is called Fly by Jing, and it was a solo female entrepreneur from Canada. She wanted to launch her hot sauce. She was a chef. She wasn't an e-commerce entrepreneur. She wasn't an inventor. She was a chef. She wanted to launch this product, and she had no idea to do it. And we pointed her to Kickstarter to experiment with this launch. With her launch, she raised about $120,000 with her hot sauce, and she gained a lot of fans and a lot of kind of recognition for her launch as she was successful on Kickstarter. And what happened after this was she was able to really turn this into a really big, popular brand. So she ended up getting right now she has over 101,000 real followers on Instagram. She started getting publicity everywhere online. People started writing about this. This became this really kind of crazy household name for chili sauce, which, if you know anything about Chinese chili sauces, they're literally like $1 or $2 at the bottom of the grocery shelf. So what she was able to do is she was able to take this successful campaign and turn this into some really, really cool brand that people were really excited about. And she brought this to a whole bunch of other platforms. So she's selling on Amazon. Last time we checked, she was doing $200,000 a month on Amazon just with hot sauce. She's selling on her own website. So she has her second channel, 120,000 visitors per month on her website. This is her own website selling direct to customers. So bypassing Amazon, bypassing other retailers, she's selling directly to customers that want to buy from her. And she was able to, with the results on Kickstarter, get funding from a private equity investment fund, and also launch to Costco, Target, and one of the most difficult ones to get into is Whole Foods. So she was able to do all of this from being able to establish this foundation from the success of her. And this is hot sauce. This is a $2 product at the bottom of the Chinese grocery store. And she's selling now this for $15 to $20 per bottle. And it shows the importance of being able to build a cool brand, but at the same time, a community that really supports what you do and a list of people that care about your brand. So let's talk about how we're going to do this in part 3, which is the Launch Accelerator Blueprint. So this is our strategy that we call the Launch Accelerator Blueprint, and this is what we use to launch all the campaigns that we do. So my first product was a success on Amazon. And I got really ambitious, and I said the next year I wanted to launch 12 products. Obviously, I didn't understand cash flow at the time. I was very new to e-commerce, and I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to launch a bunch of products. We have some cash. Let's just see how aggressive we can push this. And the spoiler is a lot of these products failed, and the main issue was that there was no real reliable strategy that was cash flow positive. So I was always running out of inventory. I didn't really know how to deal with this. So this was maybe just me being very, very new at that point in time. But this is a massive issue because as a product was doing well, I would be running out of cash and I wanted to buy the inventory and it wasn't available. So I had to wait a little bit of extra time. And this kept creating a kind of like this catch up that I had to do over time. The second thing was that I wasn't building a brand. So this was an issue because I wasn't creating customers that cared about me. Launching product 2 was no easier than launching product 1. Launching product 3 was no easier than launching product 2 or product 1. And this was a massive issue because it was almost like I was starting over every time, like I mentioned earlier. So eventually that second year on Amazon was a huge, huge failure for me. Lost a lot of money, but that's really what has led us to Kickstarter, me and my partner, to kind of discover this as a way to raise money and use this as an alternative creative launch strategy. So this is what we're going to be talking about today, which is the Launch Accelerator Blueprint. So we're going to do a high-level overview and just kind of capture as much as we can in this and give you an overview of what this looks like. So Megla, this is going to answer your question that we talked about earlier with the towel of how we can make products stand out. So the first step is to determine how our product is going to stand out and as a USP. So really, we need something that's going to hook the customers to want to purchase and support this product. And as I mentioned before, we don't need to create something completely brand new, but we do need to come up with a unique angle for this product to make sense. So this is a really good example. This is a cocktail shaker that raised, in this category, if you've seen this on Amazon, there's, who knows, maybe several hundred of these. But these guys had a really cool, unique positioning that this made this like a high-end cocktail shaker, and these guys ended up raising over 470,000 on their launch. As I said, this works for all niches, and these are a handful of the projects that we've worked with in apparel, in stationery, in beauty, in kitchenware, like a lot of different categories. So all of these are categories that work for this type of approach. So what we're going to do is we call this the edges model. And this model allows us to determine how your product is going to stand out. So level 1 is the easiest. So it requires very little effort. Level 2 is medium, a little bit more effort, and level 3 harder, requires more effort. So we're going to dive into these individually one by one to understand how we're going to use this to allow our products to stand out. So edge 1 is product positioning. So product positioning is really just changing the way that you present the product concept, or presenting the benefits or the features in a way that's a little bit different than what your competitors are doing, or in an angle that's going to be appealing because nobody has thought of it. So travel packing cubes, travel category I was really interested in when I first started at Amazon. And there's, who knows, like probably 10 or 20 pages of these. But these guys found a really unique angle. So there's lots of packing cubes that existed already. There's lots of packing cubes that had two sides to the packing cube, so a top and bottom side. These guys, what they did was something really interesting. So they took the fact that their packing cube had two sides and positioned this as clean clothes on the top and dirty clothes on the bottom. So genius. I thought that was really, really cool, because now there's a function to the fact that there's two different pouches to it. And they also focused on this 40% more space that they're saving. So these guys took a really kind of not so exciting product, positioned it really well, and raised over 280,000 on their launch. This is another one that I really like as a great example. Blackout curtains, definitely not a new product, but what these guys were able to do was they took blackout curtains and made them portable. So they essentially positioned this as portable blackout curtains, and because of that, they raised $290,000 on their launch. Really crazy. And this one is one of my favorites. I would say this is my second favorite. These guys, what they did was they took a product that already exists. These are these hiking no shoe socks where people really like to hike with natural feeling without shoes. And they took this existing product and they essentially positioned this. And one way to position is to position also to a new audience. So they took this product, which was directed mostly for hikers and people in the outdoors, and they positioned this to women. And this was for women that were going out with heels, and they don't want to, after they're going out, they don't want to continue wearing the heels because it's not comfortable. So they positioned this as, they call these after socks. And it was essentially socks that you can wear after going out so that you don't have to deal with the discomfort of heels. And these guys raised over 90,000 euros. And this is my favorite one. This is a desk toy that's called the Zen Egg. So this is one of those things you put on your desk. It could be a paperweight, but what these guys did was they presented this thing as a meditation tool. How crazy and how smart is that? So they, instead of a desk toy, they called this a meditation device that you can use to make time for yourself and just be in the moment and just be present. And this desk toy was this tool for you to be able to be present, which is really, really cool. So one of my favorite examples, these guys raised over $100,000 with this just simple way of positioning a product differently, not changing the product at all. All they did was position the product differently so that their audience could relate to it in a way that made it feel unique to them. So that's edge one. And edge one, you'll notice when we talk about this, that there's no need to modify the product in any way. It's just about taking the product you already have and finding a different angle of presenting it. And that's what these guys did with towel. Although they had an interesting material, so I'll talk about that in the next edge, Megla. But they position this as kind of like a revolutionary towel. So edge 2 and edge 3, these fall into the medium category where there's a little bit of work involved. And with edge 2, what we're doing is we're either changing or upgrading the materials, or we're maybe making it look better or making it look different, but keeping the same functionality. And with edge 3, what we're doing is a small functional upgrade. So changing or adding a function in a different way that's really simple. So a really good example of this is these titanium chopsticks. So chopsticks are thousands of years old, obviously not a new product. These guys took existing wood chopsticks and they turned them into titanium chopsticks, and people just love this. And they position this as aerospace grade titanium, whatever that means. That clearly people liked it. They sold over 270,000 on their launch. This is a client that we worked with. They took travel towels and essentially they changed the material from the microfiber towels that kind of were really weird and hard to dry into an eco-friendly bamboo material. And they added a nice little appearance change to it, making it a really cool pouch on the outside. And from that, they raised $200,000 on Kickstarter. And finally, you can tell that I like the travel category. This is a packing cube set, another packing cube set that's 7 pieces. And they essentially kind of created these different uses that you'll need for the packing cubes. They upgraded the material. So it's like this high quality kind of gray durable material. They made it look sexier. And their functional upgrade was just bundling all these together in a way that kind of made sense for people, because this is what you need to travel. So really, really cool. This was $280,000. So the note that I had here is edges can be combined. So it's not just like you have to choose edge 1 or edge 3. If you combine them, you can create something really interesting as well, where you position a product in a way that's exciting, but also at the same time, maybe you upgrade the material and then you position that differently. So you can always find ways to present this. And this is what that those towels did, Megla. They found a new interesting material, and then they found a way to make it feel really luxury, high-end, and premium, and people just really, really loved it.
We've got a question, Van. Someone is asking, what does a Zen egg do?
I mean, it literally doesn't do anything. It's just a wooden piece, but it was a meditation tool. I mean, people love the fact that they have an item that reminds them to meditate. It literally didn't do anything. I mean, it didn't help you with meditation. It wasn't one of those like things you put on your head to make you more calm or anything like that. It's literally just a desk toy.
Someone is saying Vance is fantastic at explaining the concept.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Cool. So one more example here of an Edge 2. This is a portfolio. So you just put pieces of paper in this. It's a folio case. It's like a folder. These guys position this as, well, they upgraded the material. So it's a higher quality material. But they definitely, what they did here was they positioned this towards entrepreneurs. So they called this the Visionary Portfolio collection. And they made it appealing to entrepreneurs who related to themselves as visionaries, or people that were creative entrepreneurs. So this was a bit of an improvement in the product itself, but really making it appealing to a certain audience in a way that made them really excited about it. So that's another great example. Edge 4 is in the harder category, so we call this level 3. This is when you actually do something different, or you're inventing something that's going to be a little bit more advanced, or you're making changes to the product that's more than just like a small upgrade. Some people might be, I mean, if you're new to products, this is probably not the one you're going to jump to right away. But if you're ambitious or you have a great idea, this is the category that you can look in, and you can see that these campaigns can do potentially very, very well, because they're actually creating something really different. This product was a collapsible cutlery set, where you can kind of twist on the cutlery pieces, and you can make spoons and forks and knives, and you can just carry it into this little pouch. So those guys did over 1 million euros. This was another one. I'm a nerd when it comes to plants. So this was a planter that allowed you to see the way that the plants grew, because they can grow on the outside. I mean, this is a crazy campaign that did $6 million. So, I mean, obviously that's not a common situation that this is going to happen, but this goes to show what happens when you can create something unique and have people really support this in advance, and have that cash, so you can really scale this type of product, so that it goes wild and goes everywhere. So I spent a lot of time on that one, because one of the most important questions is, how do we actually come up with a product that's going to sell? And that's really what, that's really the focus of making sure that we have nailed the USP, so that we can be comfortable that we have a product that's going to that's going to be appealing to our potential customers. So next is creating the campaign. We talked about a few of these elements already. What do you need for the campaign? The first thing is you need the brand assets. So you need photos, copy, and video. So all those things are going to make up your campaign page. And the best thing about this is that you're not doing anything special for Kickstarter, although some people are arguing, no, you don't need video for your Amazon pages nowadays. But I would disagree. I think having high quality video is going to really help you with ads and like having a premium listing. So investing in high quality assets is going to be usable everywhere. So you're just going to be making this for your Kickstarter campaign, but you're not doing anything extra, because what you're going to do is you're going to use this for when you move to Amazon, or when you move to Shopify, or when you use this for social media. So all these you're investing in assets. You're just investing in it earlier on. And you're going to need to set up your campaign. And the two main considerations is the fundraising goal and the duration. So the fundraising goal, we don't recommend having it higher than 30,000 because really our goal is to hit this within the first 24 to 48 hours, which I'll talk about in a few seconds. But generally keeping it between 10 to 30K is what you want to do as a funding goal. Campaign duration, maximum 60 days, but we recommend 30 to 45 days because that's the optimal time frame to keep momentum strong and having that propel you through finishing the campaign strong on Kickstarter. Building your list, this is super important because we're going to start building your community before the campaign. I don't want to go into too much details about why it's important. Of course, we know the value of having a list because we can communicate with them. They're going to buy more from us, all that fun stuff. So having a list, really valuable. But we're going to want to build a list of two categories of people. First is actual customers. So we call them ideal future customers. And the second one is influencers. So ideal future customers, there's paid and free ways to do this. And really what we're looking to do is find out where these people hang out. That's the main question that we ask. Where do they hang out? And we want to engage with them in those places. So whether it's Facebook groups, whether it's Reddit communities, whether it's, it could be a live place that they hang out, maybe like a live meetup or something like that, like a runners club or like, local chess club, if you have a chess product, who knows? But you might have hundreds of people in your local community that you can immediately connect with. So the idea here is you want to understand where your ideal future customers are hanging out and engage with them there and start building that community that way. Influencers, it's important to note with influencers that they're not just people that post fashion photos or food photos on Instagram. Influencers can fall into many categories, including what we call industry experts, community admins, so people that give us two things. One is access to credibility or access to an audience. And that's going to allow us to be successful, not only with a campaign, but also later on when we launch. And then potentially if we have these partnerships, later on when we launch our brand to other channels and launch the products to other channels as well. So the main thing to consider with influencers is that we want quality over quantity, and quality is defined by relevance. So we don't want just any person with 1 million followers. It might actually be that we'd rather have somebody with 10,000 followers, but all those 10,000 followers love coffee rather than 1 million followers who are following them for whatever other reason other than coffee. So it's important with influencers that we keep relevance really high. And once we have the list, what we're going to do is we're just going to launch strong. And our goal here is to hit our funding goal within the first 24 to 48 hours. And that allows us to get attention from the Kickstarter algorithm. And then we begin organically ranking within the platform. And then from there, we are able to generate more organic sales. So with our product launch, we hit our funding goal within the first 12 hours, I believe. And that allowed us to start getting some momentum within the platform. So this is the Vance Lee coffee glasses that I've been hinting at throughout the entire presentation up until this point. You want to take advantage of PR. It's optional, but we recommend it because if you get PR, not only are you getting traffic to your campaign during the campaign while it's live, but you're also being able to have this as essentially a social proof. So later on, these blog posts are going to stay there forever, and you're going to be able to have credibility when people decide to search up your product. And of course, you have access to your community. So your goal here is to be able to maybe even ask them to share right away, because as soon as they back your project, you can communicate with them. So you can ask them to share, you can ask them to tell their friends about it. You can ask them to post on social media, whatever it is that you want to do. Be creative, because now they're your customers and you want to take advantage of this as much as possible. And number 5, of course, after you are successful with this, you want to fulfill the orders. So within 15 days, like I mentioned earlier, you get the cash from Kickstarter. So that's when you can place your manufacturing order. The bonus, I won't go into this too much detail right now, but you can actually continue selling by moving your campaign over to Indiegogo and continuing to sell pre-orders even before you get your inventory. So most people that do this, they sell an extra 20 to 100% in extra sales from this. For us, we did 220 on Kickstarter. We did another about 90,000 when we moved this over to Indiegogo. And then, of course, you want to fulfill your orders because now they're your customers. You want to make sure that you keep your promise to them and make sure that they're happy, because these are going to be eventually your customers as you grow your brand.
Vance, just one quick question. How long do you have to fulfill that order? Say if you got 3 months, 4 months, is there a time limit?
The time limit is when you determine in advance. So it's a great question. You determine this in advance, and you communicate with your backers if there's going to be a delay. So this is very flexible. A lot of people understand that they're backing on these websites. They know that there's potentially delays because people are creating products. So as long as you set the time frame, and as long as you're communicating and you're updating them, sometimes they're very understanding even if it's late. I think that's a great question. And number 6, so once we deliver the product, it's not over, because now we have an opportunity to really start establishing our brand so that we can launch more products, we can develop deeper relationships with our customers. And we call this maximizing UGC, because what we're looking to do is we want our customers to start creating social media content, maybe unboxing videos, maybe YouTube review videos, maybe blog posts if there's people in our audience that do that. And all of this stuff is really helpful to not only build our brand's credibility, but also this is stuff that we can use in our ads, we can use this on our website, we can use this in our PR, whatever it is. It allows us to be able to connect with our customers and build credibility. And this is leading to a lot of organic content. So for us with the Vance Lee glasses, we get on average 2 to 5 posts every day on Instagram. This is unpaid, it's organic. People are just posting about the product when they're making their morning coffee because they like it. And we're getting a lot of traffic from just organic people just sharing about their product because they like it. And we've encouraged this kind of culture within our customers to be wanting to do this. So, and of course, you can take advantage of working with your customers in different ways by asking them feedback. What products would you like to see? Lots of different things you can do once you're able to connect with your customers, as opposed to guessing. Then you can say, hey, what product would you like us to launch next? And then they can give you some ideas, and you can maybe use that idea, and that could be your next product launch, rather than having to come up with something on your own. So this is really cool when you start building that relationship with your customers. And finally, I'll just walk through a few really quick case studies so you can imagine what this will look like in situations where people are able to make use of this model successfully. So this is the gold standard of examples. These guys were called Peak Design. It was one guy in a basement that launched his very first product, which was this camera clip. And from there, he's launched 10 campaigns that's raised over $30 million and has acquired over 130,000 fans through his launches alone. So over time, he's launched bigger and bigger campaigns. He's moved to bigger pouches. So these are like 7-figure campaigns when he launched, $4 million, $6 million, like these camera cases and camera bags. Then he moved on to travel accessories and launched another version of his clip, $5 million, $1 million. And then he moved on to launching a product that was only in the past reserved for massive camera companies, this tripod that you use to set your camera on. So that raised $12 million. And all of this started from this guy in his basement, and just building a community of customers that really, really cared about what he did. So launching new products can appeal to his initial customers. It continues to grow, and it works. It makes a lot of sense. And I know this because I'm one of his customers. I've bought 4 of his products up until date. So I'm just a fan of his brand, and I really like what he's doing. So where is he now? He's selling on Amazon. He's selling it on his website. He has a lot of traffic. The last time we checked, over 700,000 monthly visitors to his own website. This is directly ordering from him. So we're not no Amazon fulfillment fees, no Amazon commissions. He's selling directly on his own website. And he has global distribution. So he has distributors in every single country around the world, and pretty much competing head to head with some of the biggest companies that are these massive, massive multinational companies. And this all started because he built his audience on Kickstarter. Another company, a little bit smaller example, these guys are called Better Back, and they build these back braces and straps to keep your posture straight. They raised close to $3 million and got a whole bunch of fans through these campaigns. They took this publicity and they launched on Shark Tank. If you're familiar with Shark Tank, Dragon's Den, where they go on TV and look for funding. These guys got an investment from, her name was Barbara. I don't know if it went through later on, but they got it on the show. And they use this to start selling on TV. They sell on their own website, and lots of really interesting stuff that they did with this. And one more example is a smaller campaign. So I don't want you to think that all of these have to be massive 7-figure campaigns or massive, massive companies. These guys are in a really competitive niche of health and beauty and organic skincare. So these guys are called Treat a Tub. They did one campaign only, and they raised $40,000. So that's a pretty good campaign, $40,000 with a handful of fans. They use this as a way to start scaling into Amazon. They're selling on their own website, and a lot of third-party retailers started picking them up because of their credibility that they established. So now they're selling about $300,000 a month on Amazon and $300,000 a month off Amazon. So from a small campaign, being able to scale into those types of results. So That's it. I mean, those were some really good examples. I think it's a lot of information. I wanted to go a little bit faster today because I wanted to get through everything. But would it be okay with you guys if we go into Q&A and share some of the bonuses?
Yeah, definitely. Let's do that.
Yeah, definitely. Go for it, Vance.
Okay, perfect. So let's start with the bonuses. So for making it this far and for being really patient, we're going to reward you with some bonuses. Bonus number 1 is 100% free. This is Launch Hacker resources. So if you're considering this sounds interesting to you and you want to explore it, you can essentially opt in for these free resources where you're going to get some videos, you're going to get some checklists for you to start understanding kind of what this process looks like, and for you to explore if pre-orders and launches on Kickstarter is potentially helpful for you. The second bonus is I'm offering a few free launch strategy sessions and an opportunity to join our case study group of the lab. And so the strategy session is this. So if you want to find out if your product or niche can take advantage of the Kickstarter launch model, I'm going to offer 5 sessions where together we have a conversation to determine if your product idea or category is going to be a fit to take advantage of this. Well, if it's not a fit, I'll let you know. And if it is a fit, you'll have an opportunity to get a scholarship as a discount to join our lab case study program. And the only qualification that you need here is you need to be launching a product within 8 months. And it needs to be a B2C product, so a consumer product that isn't a B2B, isn't industrial, or it's not like an app or an ebook or anything like that. And the lab masterclass that I mentioned is essentially we're going to be taking on a few people to be a part of this case study program where you're going to learn the exact strategies that we use to launch all these campaigns and everything you need to plan, develop, and launch your own product using crowdfunding. And the goal for this program is really simple. We're trying to take you to the point where you have your idea all the way to launch and to sell 30 to 50,000 of pre-orders while building that solid foundation for your customers and your brand. So that's what we're looking at doing. If that sounds interesting, first we'll just do the strategy session to see if your product is a fit. So to access this, visit livemyplayground.com. So that's the website on the bottom. I don't know if you're able to post this, Megla, but
yeah, I will do that.
Perfect. So there's 2 buttons. The first one will give you access to the Launch Hacker resources. The second button is where you can apply for the free strategy session to find out if your product is going to work or your niche or your category is going to work. But note that if you go for the second bonus, you'll actually automatically get the second one or the first one as well. So you don't need to do both. You just need to do the second one once, and you'll get access to both of them. And that's it. So if we have some time, we can do some Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great presentation, Vance, and it's a great concept for sure. And I see, and probably Megla and Margaret probably thinking along the same lines as me, is that in India we see each week, because we sort of we visit a lot of factories and we talk to a lot of people, and I mean there's a huge amount of eco-friendly type sort of products available in the market. And not only that, there's some like commodities, and when you said about the spices, I've got this thing about commodities, like tea and coffee, and there's like lots of different things. And my mind was racing there at times when you're going through your presentation. But especially, what do you think like eco-friendly products, Megla? I mean, there must be so many opportunities just to, like Vance, when he was saying that, if you can present a product, that is sort of a little bit different, and and people sort of see that and then, start that sort of campaign.
Yeah. Totally agree. I think you could reimagine some products, with different materials. Like, for example, I was thinking plant-based materials. That's a very unique kind of, material, like something made out of cork or maybe cactus leather. The other day, I was looking at this company in India that's making shoes from banana fibers. I don't know how that works, but and then also recycled PET, water bottles. They're making shoes with those. They're quite popular here in India. So yeah, I think that's a really good idea, Kevin. Using eco-friendly materials and maybe launching regular products that are made out of these.
Absolutely.
What do you think, Vance?
I love it. You guys are right on. You guys are right on the ball with this. This is amazing. So, I mean, whoever's here right now, you guys are getting gold from Megla and Kevin here. So this is perfect. This is exactly the way to do it, because if you're, for example, using, did you say cactus leather? Is that what you said?
Yes. I mean, not
Yeah.
leather, but, cactus material, I
Yeah, like
guess.
leather. Yeah. So I mean, stuff
Leather.
like this is amazing. Imagine just making a wallet with cactus leather material, or
Yeah.
it's like, this stuff is the stuff that is really interesting, because people want interesting things, right? So if you're buying a wallet anyways, you want to be able to buy like something cool that you can tell your friends, hey, do you know that you can make wallets out of cactus leather? And all you're doing is you're taking a different material, like we talked about in Edge 2, is you're taking something that exists like a wallet, and then you're changing the material. And it's like, people love that. And if you can have different types of eco-friendly materials with it, and a cool story behind, like recycled bottle material that you use to make a wallet, or cactus leather tie. I mean, it's late over here. Sorry, guys. My examples are not the best on the fly. But this is a great idea. And Kickstarter loves these types of eco-friendly products. They usually give it a little bit of priority, because they love social causes. They love these types of things. So this is a bit of an insider tip. Kickstarter loves things that are helping people support social causes. So if you're able to do something like that with eco-friendly materials, or eco-conscious causes that they're supporting, Kickstarter loves that. So that's really, there's a section where you can check a box that's like, hey, is this a eco-conscious project? And it goes into a special section where they can review it to see if this is something that they can feature.
There are so many opportunities for eco-conscious products in India, Vance. I could probably fill a book, with stuff, and probably make
Yeah.
too, and stuff what we've seen, in our journey,
Yeah.
dealing with Indian factories, and talking to people, regularly from different factories and what they produce. I mean, gee, I could just, yeah, I'm sort of, whoa, like so many ideas. Yeah.
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 Let's
So
take
I
a couple
think
of questions,
definitely.
Vance, then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
So Jay's asking, is there any issues with going on both platforms, Kickstarter and Indiegogo?
So there's a strategy for this. We usually go with the Kickstarter first, and then you can shift over to Indiegogo afterwards, and the results carry over. So you saw the example that I used with my most recent campaign. We raised $220 on Kickstarter. We moved it over to Indiegogo, and it did another 90,000. So it carries, the trick is it carries the results. So it actually looks like the campaign is bigger when you move to Indiegogo. So it actually looks like the results are much stronger as you go on, so you can continue that momentum. But you can't go the other way. Kickstarter will not accept your project if you've done it on Indiegogo first. So Kickstarter, Indiegogo, if you want to do both.
Okay. But is one platform better than the other, or pros, cons?
Kickstarter is generally seen as the bigger platform. Kickstarter was the first one. They were the original. They have a bigger audience, and they're generally a little bit more stringent when it comes to approving projects. Indiegogo approves projects that are a little bit more loose. So Kickstarter needs a working prototype and everything for you to be able to say, okay, we can run this on our platform. Indiegogo can go with concepts and renderings, and so that leads to a bit of a different challenge sometimes when backers are supporting stuff they don't really know if it exists or not. So in general, Indiegogo has a little bit of an easier approval process, and Kickstarter a little bit more difficult. Indiegogo has a little bit more technical stuff where they can actually allow you to put in a tracking pixel and things like that, but we don't need to go into those details. In general, Kickstarter is bigger, and we like to start with Kickstarter unless there's a specific reason for Indiegogo, and there might be some reasons, but for example, Indiegogo often can do better with tech projects. So it depends. If you have specific questions, get in touch with me, and I'm happy to answer your questions. And we can even have a strategy session to talk about your product category if you need some help with that.
Awesome.
Does this work for drop shipping or just private label?
Great question. I think drop shipping will be really tough to make this work, because if it's drop shipping and it's a product that's very, very clearly existing in like many places, it's probably not going to be approved by Kickstarter. It needs to have something that's interesting and unique about it, whether it's this design or some type of functional upgrade. This is going to make you this is gonna, you want it to be successful. So you want to launch a product that's going to be defensible, and if you invest the time and effort into this, you want this to be something that you can kind of have for a long time. So drop shipping is probably not, it's not really going to work in this type of way.
Okay. Let's see, guys, do you have any more questions for Vance? We'll start wrapping up here. Okay. When you say the upfront cost to get your campaign launched with copy photos, etc., what does the upfront cost look like?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and it really depends on what you're creating. So obviously, there's a massive range of vendors that is going to charge different prices for photo, video. Within video, it depends on what you're selling, because there's certain videos that if you're doing a tech project of like really cool animations and 3D stuff, that's going to cost a lot more than just shooting at somebody's home when you're just showing like a glass or something on a table with a few people enjoying coffee. So it depends. It's really hard to be specific with this, but it can be anywhere between like $1,000 to a couple thousand for a video if if you are on the conservative end for like a simpler video. And again, it depends on where you're hiring from. If you're hiring from like a cheaper country, like a country like Philippines or something like that, or Ukraine. A lot of people are hiring for Ukraine now for video production. That's going to be a lot cheaper than hiring a company that's from Australia or US, for example. So those are the things you'll keep in mind. Of course, product development, you're going to have to do that anyway. So product development is one cost. Preparing the campaign assets is the other cost. And you'll want to think about ad spend as well. Pre-campaign launch ad spend, you don't have to invest so much. We have a lot of free ways that we use in our method that you actually don't have to invest money to start building your audience. But during the campaign, you'll want to consider having funds available for ads. And the good thing about during campaign ads is that you get to run the ads and see if they're working. And if they're working, you can put more money into the ads. But if they're not working, you can stop. So, but we say that if you are launching the campaign and things are going well, you should have access to funds, because if it's going well, you're putting in $1, you're getting $5 or $10 back, then of course you want to put as much money as possible, because you want to scale the success of the campaign.
It's like any business, Vance. I mean, if you've got to have money to invest and money to start. You can't, it's like playing poker. You can't play poker with no money, can you?
No, well, you need a little bit first, at least, to get started.
A little bit, yeah, for sure.
We have a shoe store. Will this work for shoes?
I've seen lots of successful shoes on Kickstarter. I think maybe get in touch with me if you have something specific about a specific product or specific something specific within shoes. But there's lots of shoes that have done like crazy well in terms of success, like travel shoes, hiking shoes, all sorts of interesting things. So you'll find, if you just search Kickstarter and product category, so if you search Kickstarter and shoes, you're going to find some interesting stuff, or like Kickstarter watches or Kickstarter backpacks. You're going to find so many interesting projects that you're going to be inspired by. Right now, we're working with shoes. I mean, we've worked with a shoes campaign before that did pretty well, about 120K. They had interesting materials that they worked with. It was kind of like an athletic shoe. Lots of travel stuff do really well on crowdfunding.
Awesome. So Vance, how do you help with, if people are interested in launching their campaign, like what is your sort of role? Do you help launch the campaign? Do you teach people how to do it?
Yeah, so we have something called the Launch Accelerator Blueprint, which is what we've covered in the program, in the presentation. That's the process that we use to launch campaigns. So right now we are teaching people how to go through this process to do this, so that they have the skills to do this in the future. So if they do one and it works really well, they can do it again and again and kind of rinse and repeat. And the strategy now for a lot of people that are going through this process is they want to build real brands. So what we want to do is we want to teach them the process of going through and launching a Kickstarter campaign, so that you can start building that audience, building that initial momentum. So if you get your first 500 or 1,000 or even a couple of thousand fans, then this is what you really have to be able to scale this brand. So let's say you want to launch on Amazon, you can say, hey, I have this audience. Can you guys buy my product on Amazon at a discount or whatever it might be, so you can start building momentum. So our goal here is we teach people how to launch the campaign, But the main focus of this is just not only just to launch the campaign, but the focus is also to, as you go through the process, build the foundations for the brand, which is the community. So we teach people that entire process to go through and prepare for the campaign, build that community, and eventually use this as a way to kind of scale this brand into launching product 2, product 3, product 4. So giving them that process so that they know exactly how to do it, and support and coaching along the way.
Right. We are through the development and design processes for our unique coffee products. Can we still launch on Kickstarter? How can we DM your guest? What's the best way to contact you, Vance?
The best way, so I can drop my email here, just Vance at Live My Playground. But the best way to actually, why don't you just apply for that call? So you can just go to, the website, livemyplayground.com, and then there's this section that's apply for the masterclass. Use that section to just apply for the call, and we'll be in touch. Just leave the information and just say that you found out about us through this presentation, and we'll be in touch.
All right. Well, Vance, thank you so much for the very informative presentation today, and lots of great information, lots of ideas, I think, for people to think about. Really appreciate your time and your information.
Yeah, thanks once again, Vince. And I'm sure, all the people that sort of follow us sort of regularly and see, things that we bring to them from factories in India. Look, I'm sure their brains will be racing now thinking, how can I get something? But, there's plenty of opportunities, with India, with the products, the stories, and you can put all those things together. I think
I love it. I think based on what I've known, the work that you guys are doing in India and the opportunities that you're giving your community, this is the perfect category of things to source products like this when it comes to, like you mentioned it, the variety of products, the difference when it comes to being able to have eco-friendly and like that type of focus on materials. People love that stuff now. It's just like, this isn't even just a Kickstarter thing. This is an entire movement, like within within like consumer product goods right now, to be able to move towards eco-friendly and supporting eco-conscious products and eco-conscious production and all this type of stuff. So it's really, really positive, and really being able to have those stories like you mentioned. So if there's interesting stories about people that produce the products and people that are working on the materials, these are amazing. Like, this is not just for Kickstarter. These make amazing brands as a whole, to be able to have these components of cool materials, cool product, cool story, and this is what allows you to build an interesting brand around this. And so now you can start thinking bigger, like how can we make use of the resources that you guys offer for being able to think about how can you build something that's going to be really exciting, bigger than just like getting a generic product, right? There's a bigger play here that's going to be much more sustainable for a lot of your members to kind of see and explore this as a way to build a sustainable business because of the resources that you're offering them. So I think this is really awesome that you guys are doing this. And as you guys are watching this, you should really appreciate the work that Megla and team are doing.
Thanks,
awesome. Jane is saying my brain is going full speed. And I think, Jane, when you're at the trade show, because you're coming with us on India sourcing trip, so when you're at the trade show, you can have this in the back of your mind. Okay, what sort of products can be launched on Kickstarter? And you're going to see a lot of such interesting eco-friendly products at the trade show, and even the suppliers, the factories that we visit in India. So it's going to be awesome. Trish is saying, thanks, Vance, just brilliant info. Amazing. Well, thanks a lot again, Vance. And you're invited to India. Why don't you join us on one of the India sourcing trips and come see the products for yourself?
If it lines up, I would love to join you and meet some of your members and meet your community as well.
Well, if it's not October, there's always March, Vance. And if not March, there's always the October following that as well. So,
all right, March and October. I'm locking this in my schedule. Awesome. I think I'll be in Bali next, so there's a chance that I'll join you guys when I'm closer in that way.
Excellent.
Yeah, totally. All right.
Thank you so much for having me. This is always a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, guys, for joining us. And we're going to be back tomorrow with a virtual India sourcing show. So we'll see you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.